in particular. When we look at this map of the ancient land of Canaan, you can see Canaan was a vast area, okay? And God had sent the children of Israel into this land after the 40-year trek in the wilderness to conquer it, okay? We also know from the Bible and archaeological accounts that there were basically 4 races of giants. They were named in the Bible. They were the Anakims, the Emims, the Horims, and the Zuzims, or who were also called the Zamzumims. Now, within this area of Canaan are other ancient cities and sites, and many of them have ruins on the surface that just defy all type of explanations, just like you were saying. How did they build it? The engineers don't know how, or at least according to their modern day understanding of biblical accounts, you know. Now, if you look where the red dot is right here, that's where an ancient area or city known as Göbekli Tepe is located. And as you can see, it's well within, you know, that region of Canaan. Now, within Göbekli Tepe, there are these ancient ruins, okay? And these ruins, if the dating is correct, goes back to 9,000 BC. Now, here is where we run into an immediate problem. Conventional dating that we've done as far as the actual beginning of man, according to what God's own word tells us, everything began at 4004 BC, yet Göbekli Tepe, if we go by the carbon 14 or carbon 15 dated, goes all the way back to 9,000 BC. In other words, more than 11,000 years ago from our present date. Now, what is believed to have been a place of worship, Göbekli Tepe has many different T-shaped pillars like this one, okay? And there was support roofs along with the T-shaped columns. Now, these columns were approximately, I believe they were 19 feet tall, and the support columns, some of them could be as tall as 23 feet tall. And some of these pillars and columns weighed anywhere from 10 to 50 tons. Now, it's believed we can't duplicate these engineering feats. Now, here we have a stone circle at Göbekli Tepe. And you can see here the support pillars, or the support columns, and the regular ones that ran around these circles. Now, interesting enough, when we look at this CGI right here, this is what one of the areas, you know, what archaeologists have unearthed in one section. You see, for the past, it's been more than 13 years now that they've been excavating at Göbekli Tepe, and yet, in that time, in all that time, they've only uncovered 5% of the entire area. And so, there's a lot of questions and answers that we're waiting for. And one of the most interesting thing about it is that no tools have been found yet. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't, that there couldn't have been tools. But you see, it's very easy when you understand what was going on in this part of the world at the time, that giants could very easily have been the ones to have created places like Göbekli Tepe, because we look through this area entirely. We find out from the Bible that this entire area not only was inhabited by giants, but if the numbers are correct, they could have ranged anywhere up to 1,000,000, if not more than 1,000,000 giants. It just depends on the numbers themselves, really. But
so you're telling us solely that the giants were responsible for the buildings of Göbekli Tepe?
well, and it makes perfect sense. You see, the mystery is no one knows how they were built. I mean, if we go back to this photo here, interesting enough, on this particular pillar, all the pillars have what look like these long arms, as if they were the ones lifting the pillars. Now, let's look at what we've already seen throughout the DVD series. We know by the archaeological evidence, we've got the physical evidence, that some of the giants ranged anywhere from 9.5 to 36 feet in height. So it's no stretch of the imagination when you think about it. Just like, you know, the stone circles at, let's say in Stonehenge in England, you know, Avesbury Henge, Woodhenge, all those other stone circles we find there, they're very, very easily could have been done by giants.
Is there anywhere else or any other regions that you want to focus in on?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. You see, again, we're going to say within the land of Canaan, right in this area, okay? Because right next to it is the modern day region of Turkey. And if we look at this next map, again, now this is where Göbekli Tepe is located. And 50 kilometers just north of it is another ancient city, the ruins known as Navali Kore. And here we have, and let me just show this one. Look at this entry gate. Now, to give everyone a good perspective of just how big this thing is, down here we have a couple of people that are quite a number of feet away from the gate itself. If we, you know, to push them in just a little further, you could estimate easily this gate, this entry gate, is anywhere from 60 to 70 feet tall. Now, look at this huge building in the background. Again, this thing has been dated all the way back to around the same period, more or less, to Göbekli Tepe. So, why would anyone need this type of opening in a gate unless you were a giant? Just so you can get an idea of that giant building again, who would need something like that, or who could even build it, unless possibly giants were involved in the construction of it? We see the same type of T-shaped pillar formations that we found at Göbekli Tepe. And if we go by this one here, we have the ruins of an ancient courtyard. Okay? Now, interesting enough, again, as I said before, if we look at the structures very carefully, we compare the T-shaped pillars here of Göbekli Tepe to these here at Navali Kore, they line up. They are lining up. And the connection, both were well within the area of Canaan, where the giants, we know, through the Bible and through archaeology now, had resided. Now, when we start comparing these structures to other structures of the world, something begins to line up. We take a look at this ancient megalithic formation. This is where it gets interesting. Here is Göbekli Tepe, one of the stone circles that they have unearthed so far, okay? Does this stone circle look at all familiar to this one? Yeah.
Are you hinting at the possibility that even giants are not really strictly in tune with the places of the Bible?
Well, giants, there are records of giants. I mean, real giants, not, someone who's 7 feet tall. I'm talking about genuine giants, according to what the Bible describes as, throughout the world. I mean, when we, just, as it says, let's look at this structure here. You can tell. It's, someone is on the same line here. Okay? One of the mysteries about Stonehenge, again, how was it built? Engineers can't figure this out because, among other things, the material is made out of a rare blue granite stone that you can't find in that area at all. You have to go hundreds of miles away to find it. So, how did they get them here to begin with? Then how did they hoist the top part up there? Think about this for a second. You're a giant. Let's say you're one of those big 30 plus foot giants. Okay? Giants could more than easily have made any of these structures. And as far as lifting these lintels up, they couldn't do by themselves. They just had one of their friends help them. The common sense here, and I mean it really is common sense, when we look at the biblical records and the archaeological records, and especially where all of this had happened, it really was the giants that did it. In ancient Britain, okay, there's a story, and I remember this one, about a giant named Gomagot, which is translated into Gog Magog. This particular giant, and this was one of the smaller ones, was over 13 feet in height, and he was so strong that accordingly he could wrap his arms around a tree and with one pull uproot the whole tree out of the ground.
As amazing as these stories sound, it sure makes a lot more sense than strapping a few ropes to some camels and they're the ones moving these ginormous rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, but some of this stuff is just really hard to really comprehend because, the mainstream has led us so far away from the truth of the matter.
Well, let's face it, we're not going to get any of this information out of the mainstream media, but the truth of the matter is the archaeological evidence is overwhelming. There is hardcore physical evidence for giants. Remember, here we have one of the giants. Here's his head, his body, his feet are tucked in, as if he's in a fetal position. That stood 9.5 feet tall. Now, this is the same giant, the same size of giant you would have found Goliath, okay?
I mean, just take it in a modern day example. Most people who weightlift, they can easily bench press twice their weight. So imagine them lifting twice their weight. It's amazing to think about.
Well, medically speaking, and a healthy female human being should be able to lift up her own weight. A healthy human male should be able to lift 1.5 times his own weight. If we go by the biblical account, I mean, and these giants do bear out the Bible's facts on this. They had 6 feet, 6 toes, and double sets of teeth, 2 rows of teeth. And, they stood anywhere from 9 to 36 feet, and in some places higher. And here we have the weapons that they would be using against you if, they were coming after you. Think about this. Something that is this big. And you have a piece of wood on it. Who knows how big that would be, maybe like this. And it's connected with a leather strap. No human being would use something that big. It wouldn't be a tool, it would be a hindrance at that point. But a giant could easily wield any single one of these with one hand. There's no reason on this earth anyone would build something like that unless you were a giant. There is no other possible explanation. I don't care what type of ridiculous, summations people want to come up with, and I can guarantee you it certainly wasn't alien beings. I mean, yeah, alien beings were responsible for the creation of Göbekli Tepe. No. Alien beings, they say, created Stonehenge. No. All the local legends, the myths, the archaeological evidence, the biblical records, all completely point to the one and only logical conclusion that fits into everything. And that is giants. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, that there were giants in the earth.
And that's just it's not only just the physical evidence, but the evidence that fits into the biblical account is what's important. Is once you take the giants out of the Bible, you start having to twist a lot of the scriptures to fit your own opinion, and it does a lot of harm to the biblical text once you remove the giants out of the biblical evidence.
Yes.
It all fits in perfectly. I mean, even with the civilizations and certain cities and why God wiped out certain villages, it all starts to add up, and without the evidence or the account of the giants, none of it really makes sense.
Well, it's like you were saying, you're not going to find this in mainstream media because they don't want the people to know the Bible is true. All the various forms of the media, such as television, radio, newspapers, and such, had all been taken over by the Illuminati starting back in the 30s. They started buying them up, putting in their own editors. This is how you're going to run things. If you don't, you're out of here.
And it's just like we was discussing yesterday, why they changed the giant or the fallen angel view to the Seth, because they didn't want people to feel uncomfortable. But just because, the message is hard to grasp doesn't mean that we need to change it. I mean, go to salvation. That is going to bring a lot of people to an uncomfortable situation. Do we need to change that message? And the simple answer is no. We need to give them the truth.
Exactly.
I am looking forward to seeing your interpretation of the stone circles and crop circles and the connection with both of them. We've seen how the giants were really incorporated, and they're the ones who really built the stone circles.
Right.
And that's pretty obvious that, we even discussed that there's no way they're going to get camels or elephants or even maybe 5-footed men to maneuver these great stone blocks, okay?
Right.
So obviously it's the giants. We've looked at that. But what's the connection really between the stone circles and these crop circles? Is it really giants, or is it something more demonic? And I guess what I really want to know is, when we see these stone circles, and even when we go back to the Celts and some of the occult rituals that they had going on, now we find these crop circles really all around these stone circles. So is there really, I guess, deeper involved an occult connection here?
Well, there really is an occult connection going on with all of this, and I will prove it. We know that stone circles in Great Britain and other, right around that area, Avesbury, so on and so forth, we know that they were controlled, and there was worship going on within these stone circles by the Druid priests of the Celtic nations, okay? And we know, of course, that they worship these false gods and other things like that, and that they all used these occult symbols and such during their rituals and such. And this is where we find a definite connection, especially when you have the circle. This is known as a pentagram. Now, you need a pentagram if you're going to communicate directly with a demon. Now, mind you, folks, these are all crop circles I'm about to show you, all of them. And you will find, as it says, this is a perfect 5-pointed sign. You need this to communicate with demons. Now, this is what's known as the hexagram. This symbol will be used in the Illuminati to this very day when you're performing the rites of human sacrifice. Now, we know that within the Druids' belief system, They practice human sacrifice. That's a fact. We can't get away with that one. And this one is known as the goddess, okay? And she's known as the goddess because, if you notice, we have the female here, with the crescent moon, reaching up towards a star. And if you remember, in this series, we already demonstrated that this was the Venus star, okay? And this one is the capstone, well, I should say the pyramid, with the eye and the capstone. This is the oldest symbol in existence for the Order of the Illuminati. So something definitely is going on here, especially when you think about the fact that more than 10,000 crop circles have now been reported, and that 90 to 95% of them is found in the area of Wiltshire, England. Now, you have to ask yourself, why that area? What is there about Wiltshire, that region of England, that so many crop circles would be made at? Why? You know? And the reason is because, quite literally, now remember, throughout that entire area, it's estimated that there was approximately 1,000 stone circles. And it was at these stone circles that the Druids would be literally spilling who knows how many tens of thousands of gallons of blood on the ground because they believed in human sacrifice. Okay, this would be the perfect region for demonic activity.
Now, I don't want to be jumping ahead or anything, but mentioning the Druids and even human sacrifice, we see a demonic connection as well here. But which way is the message going with the crop circles? Is this man really reaching out and making a really, I guess, ritual grounds, or is this a demonic message back to man?
Well, actually, we know that these crop formations could not have been done by human hands. Not in the time it would take to create them if you're going to try to get away with them. We already went, and spoke about Doug and Dave Bowell throughout the series, how they claimed they were the ones who created all these crop circles. It was afterwards found out that there was no way they could have been because, first of all, other crop circles had been spotted throughout the world, and we know they weren't there. Second of all, we found out that they were under the employment of the Ministry of Defense in England to say they were the ones, so no one would show any more interest in them. This way, the Ministry of Defense would be the only ones to investigate this, but that blew up in their face. What is going on here is there, because of the occult nature of those stone circles, where they're located, because of the human, because remember, the Druids were summoning up these demons now for almost 3,000 years. We have a 3,000-year history of these stone circles being there, where the blood had been spilled, demonic forces were being summoned. Now, if you want to look at it from, let's say, a more secular perspective, now they're getting into the next step of their plan. See, remember, back in 1938, there was a mind-controlled experiment to judge how a society would react to an alien invasion, starting with the War of the Worlds broadcast, and obviously was panic. Now, in the next part, as I just stated, let's up it a little. Let's start saying that aliens are trying to contact us through these crop circles. We know it's demons, but let's just go with that for now. See, it's a matter of like coming to like now. It's demonic forces that is doing all these things. We know that the race of giants, as found in Genesis 6:1 through 4, I should say, were the offsprings of the mating of fallen angels or demons with female humans. And according to what the scripture says after that, the race of giants were created. And it was the giants that created places such as Rollright Stone Circle, Avesbury Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, Nivali Kure, and all those things. And they're demonic. Remember, their fathers who sired them were demons. We know that demonic forces were summoned at these stone circles because of the Druids, and we also know that demonic forces are now creating these stone circles. So there is a connection here, a definite connection. And one other connection you need to take a look at. Start with this one, Corey. You see, over here we have a stone circle, a crop circle, a formation that looks to me like it was just being built. And now we see these balls of light. Balls of light have been reported at all, at various at various crop circle formations. Something's going on here, because when we look at this next one, my understanding is that this person did not see that ball of light behind him. But when they were examining one of those crop circles, this ball of light was in the photo. So then, are we looking at another connection here? Well, according to what some people are trying to lead other people to believe, these orbs or balls of light are aliens, but they can't be. I mean, first of all, we have provided more than sufficient enough evidence to prove that UFOs are nothing but man-made constructs. They're flying machines we made, not some type of advanced civilization. So we can't go into outer space for an answer. We have to look towards inner space for the answer. And this is where we have been finding all the answers that's connecting all the pieces, as you just stated. Now, when it comes to the balls of light, well, people say, well, they appear at these crop circles, so they must be aliens because aliens are making crop circles. Well, that's not true. Because if that were the case, and here we have a photo of a cemetery, okay? And if you look right here, we have one of those balls of light, don't we? Just like this. This is nighttime. Now, these balls of light appear so frequently at this particular cemetery. This gate here is known as Orb Gate. Because that's where the orbs in this cemetery is appearing. Now, at this cemetery marker, you notice right here, we have orbs. Now, unless they're trying to tell me that aliens are haunting cemeteries, something else obviously must be going on. Because I was always told when I was growing up that it's, demons or ghosts or ghouls that haunt cemeteries and not aliens. There's no way that this could be an alien. I mean, unless, aliens are now, giving up on crop circles and decided to haunt cemeteries, that's ridiculous. But let's bring this a little further, okay? Excuse me. Here we have